Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Hey there folks, welcome you all to yet another podcast of mine. Another Friday has caught up with us, people. Yes, it has, which can mean only one thing. Flaggins up to you all. It is Flaggins Up Friday. If it is of the evening, of any evening, it doesn't have to be this evening, but it is of the evening, you can go and get yourself one of these beverages or something of a similar ilk and join me while I chat all things gaming to you. My week has consisted of much exercise again, which I won't go into. Same routine as the last time I spoke about, really. Although I've only done one run this week as opposed to 3 because it's been absolutely lashing it down, people, lashing it down. But I have been doing much in the way of gaming, because I think I mentioned in the last vlog that I was going to start rattling through the Halo Master Chief Collection, which I've had for ages and never got round to battling through it. And because of all the Halo Infinite stuff that has been going on, it gave me a real buzz to want to get back into the action. I tell you what, I've had an absolute blast playing it. And we'll come back to that. Well, I want to give you some opinions of it because in the main part, it's a really fun experience so far. But I just wanted to talk about my experience of playing it because it has had a lot of patches, a lot of updates. If you install that game from the fresh disc, it takes a long time to install. And even then, you've got the downloads to do as well, which are massive. But we'll talk about all that a bit later on. We do have many things to talk about this week, people. It's a bit of a splatter of lots of little things as opposed to the last few weeks, which has been very concentrated on specific things. So we shall rattle through it in no particular order. I shall have a little sip of this, shall we? We're getting straight to it this week, people. There's no faffing around. I was going to say fannying, you know, but I've said it now. There's no fannying about, people. Ooh, it's good, people. I'm double dipping. Right, well, I think we should begin with that image that just came up previous to Flight Simulator. And have a little chat about who saw this coming, eh? Who saw this coming? A multiplayer co-op for Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima Legends Multiplayer Co-op is coming soon, people. We don't have an exact date, I don't think, for it yet. But it turns out they've not only made a stunning and wonderful campaign open world game, but they have, out of the blue, decided to give us a co-op multiplayer experience. And I think that's awesome. I think the way they've done it is awesome. I think the fact that they didn't say it was happening and there was no hint of it at all gave them plenty of time to put something together, which hopefully will be a nice, fun experience. And it also gives you a reason to keep coming back to that game and not sell your game on if you're a disc person. Because if you're any sort of multiplayer person, you might want to experience that. I think if they'd done it as a PvP, person v person type thing, I think maybe it wouldn't have been quite as popular. I think because they've done it almost in a Destiny style, where you can have up to 4 people. So you can have 2 to 4 players effectively. But depending on how many people you've got in your party depends on just how much of the content you can do. So with 2-player story mode, with 2 players, you get story mode missions effectively. And then with 3-player, I think you get the similar, but you get more of them. And then with 4-player, you get, once you've worked through all the story-based missions, which progressively get harder, you get a raid, which they've built for people that have completed it, which is a proper good challenge, apparently. And you do all of this with 4 different character types. So you've got 4 classes, which you do, generally speaking, in most RPG-type stuff. And they are the Samurai, Hunter, Ronin, and Assassin. So there's at least a sword and a bow, and one of the assassins probably a light blade, and Ronin, not sure. It's a bit of a guess there, people, a bit of a guess. So you've got the 4 classes to choose from. Obviously, presumably, if you're in a, well, I don't know. I mean, Destiny, you can play as 3 hunters, can't you? So I don't know if it will limit you to 1 class per game, or whether you can all be the same class. You may well be able to be the same class at the same time. So it's interesting, and none of the characters being used in the multiplayer are anything to do with the character from the game. They're all individual characters based on stories told by the people of Tsushima. So they are legends in their own right, being put into this multiplayer co-op campaign and story missions. Co-op story missions. I don't really call it a campaign. And the raid is really interesting because I'd like to see just how big and fierce that is. So yeah, I'm really chuffed that they've come along and done this. And I think the fact that the single player experience was so well received, I think it's going to make people want to come back and try out the multiplayer, I think. There are people there, obviously, that are only going to be interested in single player campaign type stuff. But I think in the main part, if you enjoyed the battle system in that game and you want to get a bit more hands-on and have a bit more of a fest with it. I mean, there's also a horde mode in there for... I think, yeah, I'm not sure if the horde mode was available for 3-player, but it's definitely available for 4-player. So you've got a wave-based survival mode. I've called it horde mode because that's kind of what it is. But it's a wave-based survival. So you just got to last as long as you can. Whether there's an end to that, I assume there must be. And probably it will come with trophies of its own as well, that are outside of the platinum, which is something else that I love. Like, if you're going to do online trophies, make them fecking separate from the bloody platinum. I think Sony have learnt that lesson now, to be fair, with their first party stuff anyway. So, yeah, I'm super excited for them as a company. Is it something I'm going to play? Probably not, because I'm not really an online player. Destiny is one of the few things that I actually enjoy playing. Well, I say enjoy playing. I haven't played it in a long time because I got so fed up with it. But it's the one game that I've dabbled in quite a lot because I love the experience of playing with mates, Craigie Boy and his brother John and stuff. So it was something I got a lot of fun out of, but they need to make some serious enhancements with that game in order for me to go back in. They've got a lot of money out of me, Destiny. So it would take a lot for me to spend any sort of time with an online game like that. But I think it's going to be a big hit as long as it plays well. So yeah, I'm super excited for them. And nobody saw that coming. It was a curveball, that one, straight from the left field. So yeah, I'm really chuffed for them as a company and a studio that's come along and people are excited for it. No idea when it's coming yet. I suspect it says for PS4. Doesn't necessarily say for PS5, but I think we can assume that they're going to stick it on PS5. I think certainly the later games of the PS4 are certainly going to want people to be playing it on PS5. Otherwise, it's only had a life cycle of about 4 months or something. So yeah, super stoked for that. Really, really good. Moving swiftly on, Demon's Souls, people. Now I predicted, I forgot my word there, predicted that this was going to be a launch title. I also predicted that Horizon Zero Dawn, well, Horizon Forbidden West, as we now know it's called, was going to be a launch title, and that's wrong, because that's coming in 2021. I also predicted that Ratchet and Clank might be would be a launch title. I'm now doubting that, because why would you launch that at the same time as Miles Morales? Because it's the same studio, Spider-Man Miles Morales. Insomniac. The only thing that makes me think that could be a possibility is that Spider-Man Miles Morales is not an exclusive PS5 title, nor is it a full game. And it is available on PS4 as well as PS5. So it's possible you might get Ratchet and Clank still. But anyway, that all aside, it would be very, very surprising for a studio to release 2 titles at once. But that all aside, Demon's Souls is still up there for one of my predictions to happen and be true. And the reason that it's becoming slightly more apparent than it might be is that in Japan and Korea, they have been given a rating. So, sorry, the game has been given a rating. And usually ratings only happen when it's ready to go. Same with movies, you know, it's pretty close to launch when you get an official rating on a title. So it is starting to look, I mean, you certainly don't rate a game that is not finished because you could put anything in it, couldn't you? So for me, I'm still feeling like Demon's Souls may well be an exclusive PS4 title for day one, and that would be a massive hit for them, a really massive hit for them. And yeah, okay, it's a remake, but I don't think that many people will remember Demon's Souls a huge amount. I mean, I think your hardcore Dark Souls fans will get it, but I don't think many people out there will remember Demon's Souls. And even if the people that did play it, it was a long time ago, and it looked stunning when we saw the clip. Well, not that we saw much, but Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a massive hit, and it's certainly a console seller for me. Any From Software title is going to be. I know From Software aren't doing the remake, but it's still a From Software game. It's still going to have the elements that were in the first game. It's just going to be really, really well redone polish-wise. It's just going to look spectacular. I hope they do a little bit more with it. I think if there were clumsy elements or... I mean, to some extent, they're probably not even using the same engine, but I don't know. I can't imagine you'd be using the same engine in a remake. Certainly in a remaster you would. So with a whole new engine, but with the same level design and stuff, I think you're still looking at the original Dark Souls. You're still looking at the original one. So for me, that's a massive boon if that's going to be at launch. Really excited for it. Next up on the list, people, next up on the list. Microsoft have themselves a surprise 10 out of 10 title out of the blue. Well, it's not out of the blue. It's been a long time in coming, but... if you are a flight simulator fan from years gone by and loved yourself a flying game where you can hop in a plane and just fly off anywhere. Now, here's the thing with this game, right? This game was built on... somebody kind of thought, hang on a minute, so if we've got all these Google Maps and Bing Maps, in this case, Bing Maps, and we've got all this world data and we can go anywhere in the world on these things, why can't we take that data and put it into a new flight simulator? And therefore, it's always updating. It's always going to have... new things that are put in place, and everything's going to be in the right place in the world, and you can literally, with this game, you can get in a plane at any airport in the world, fly from that airport to another airport in the world. You can fly over your own house. You can do anything. I mean, it's just amazing what they've done with it. It's absolutely fantastic. And I mean, I've only looked at the clips and stuff, obviously, but that is incredible, and everyone who's playing it, who loves that kind of game, is just having their socks blown right off. You know, there was one guy who wanted to fly over Chernobyl and stuff and was able to do it, and just anywhere in the entire world, you can just get in a plane, fly from one airport to any other airport, and you can go via any route you want. Just go for it. And you can also, like, you can put it on like apparently on a really sort of max difficulty where, I mean, bear in mind this is only on PC at the minute, but it is coming to Xbox Series X. We don't know when, but it is coming. And I said that well as the little picture came up of an Xbox Series X. But you can, yeah, so you can fly it in like the hardest mode where you've got to take control of just about everything, but you can also set it to easy. And I mean, I was listening to Xbox, so what's it called, Unlocked on IGN, and one of the chaps on there said he'd never played a flight simulator before. Is it Dustin? Dustin, his name is, I think. He was saying he'd never played one before, and he hopped in a plane and just went off, and he didn't use keyboard, he just used the controller. Whereas the other guys were like, hey, how did you do that? We were having to use keyboards and all sorts on the PC. And he's like, well, I just put it on easy and used the controller. It was fine. And he was off flying around all over the place. So it's one of those where you can set it to something that's really testing if you want to really test your pilot skills, or you can just make it dead easy to jump in a plane and go anywhere you like. It's not something that I'm particularly that fussed about. I mean, maybe one day if I'm on Game Pass or something and it hits that, then... In fact, I think it is on Game Pass PC, so you can just go and play it if you've got a PC and got Game Pass on it. But hopefully it'll do the same on Xbox Series X, and maybe I'll just give it a go when I get the Ultimate Game Pass. Or Game Pass Ultimate, whichever around it is. So yeah, I'm really chuffed for them. I'm really chuffed they've got this sort of 10 out of 10 coming out the way. It's interesting, isn't it, that the 10 out of 10 games that Microsoft have got are simply vehicle based. I mean, Forza Horizon or Forza Motorsport, whatever, always sort of 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 games. And here's another a plane vehicle one comes along, another 10 out of 10. And yeah, I'm super stoked. I'm really happy for them, and I hope that it runs as well on the Series X as it does on the PCs. But hey, look, we're going to be paying a lot of money for these Series X's and the PS5s for that matter. So these things are pretty uber. They should be able to cope with anything that's thrown at them really now. I mean, this is a real generational leap that we're taking. And this is why these consoles aren't going to be cheap, because it's a massive leap forward. We're putting stuff in these that aren't in PCs at the minute. They will be soon, but they're not yet. So that for me is a generational leap as far as consoles go. A really good one. I can't remember the last time a console jumped ahead of a PC, even just briefly. So it's fantastic stuff that's happening at the minute. Super stoked for Microsoft. They've got this flight simulator going. I mean, they're saying it looks spectacular as well. I mean, it looks really good. I mean, photographic type images. They said, though, if you go really low, as you would expect, if you go really low and like fly over somebody's house and stuff, it doesn't look exactly like their house, but it is there, you know. And I think they said one of them flew over IGN Studio. He said it didn't look exactly like it. He goes, but the tarpaulin was there, and, you know, so he knew it was the building. But, you know, lots of little detail isn't there, but you can see that it's the building is there. So that's expected, though, with a game that can go anywhere in the world. I mean, come on now. I think we're expecting a bit much if we're going to see, you know, Billy Bob Banana like sitting at his front door waving, hey, eating a hot dog. So yeah, no, I'm really, really stoked. I'm glad that Microsoft have got a 10 out of 10 sort of bouncing out the door like that, right ahead of the Xbox Series X. It shows you what their studios can do, like, you know, it's really, really good. Okay, here's one we talked about last week. Control. Anyone who's played Control, I moaned last week that Control, they've come out with an Ultimate Edition of Control, and if you buy the Ultimate Edition of Control, you can get a free upgrade to the PS5 version or the Xbox Series X version. However, if you bought the game at launch, you won't get that free upgrade. You have to buy the Ultimate Edition, which caused a right uproar because people were like, hang on a minute, I supported the game at launch and now you want me to buy it all over again. And I think that's a fair enough complaint, to be fair. I'd be, as I said last week, I'd be happy to pay an extra £10 or whatever it is to get the upgrade. That's fine. Just give me an upgrade price. I don't want to buy the whole game again and have a defunct disc because nobody wants it because it can't upgrade to the next console. So anyway, the publisher 505, I think they're called, came out with a statement saying, oh, we tried every angle and we tried everything we could to make to see if we could give it on the bog standard edition, but that just wasn't feasible or possible, and the only way that we can provide that facility is on the Ultimate Edition. There's just no way we could do it. I'm sorry, that is absolute bollocks, because I'll tell you the one way you could do it. If I put my control disc in, you simply download the Ultimate Edition for me. That's how you do it. Just like backward compatibility does it. You put in the disc if you've got the old disc, and it downloads the new version of the game. So bollocks to you, and bollocks to your silly ass excuse. There's a perfectly easy way to do it. You just let the disc download the new version of the game. And if that's a little bit too much to cope with, you know, I'm sure somebody can come around and explain it to you. So, I'm sorry, it's still not a reasonable excuse for me. It's absolute nonsense. If what you're saying is that what is on the disc on the first game is not upgradable to PS5, fine. So you let the disc activate a download for the new version of the game, job done. You are wangling your way out of giving that upgrade to somebody because you want more money, and it's as simple as that. So don't come out with excuses about the fact you couldn't do it. End of. I'm not having it. At all, people. I'm sorry, it's utter bollocks, and I will not be buying the Ultimate Edition out of a pure point of principle, so you can shove it up your a-hole. You're welcome. I'm sure the original edition will play just fine. It'll probably play smoother anyway without the upgrade. Oh, blimey. I'm tempted to keep that beer on my lap, but I won't. So, yes, there's my opinion on that, people. But that's the comment that 505 came out with. I'm not blaming Remedy, because Remedy obviously only have so much control. Hey, see what I did there? Over what happens when it's published and stuff. The publisher obviously has a lot of control over that. But I think at some point, I think maybe Sam Lake needs to jump up and say, hang on a minute, I'm not happy. We're pissing all our fans off. Let's sort it out. And that's exactly what you need to do. I mean, if all you have to do is, let's say it's not a free version. When you put the disc in, it says, well, you've got the disc, so you are allowed to buy an upgrade to have the new version of the game rather than buy the whole game online. And once you've bought that little upgrade, as long as you keep your disc, you'll always be able to download that version of the game. You know, that's the way I would get around it. And then I'll pay me extra 10 quid. And then I've put my disc in it or download a new version of the game. Obviously, you need to be aware that if you ever sell your disc on, you're not going to have access to the game and you've just wasted 10 quid. And that's fine. You know what I mean? People wouldn't be that bothered, I don't think. Certainly better than paying 40 quid for an Ultimate Edition. There you are. I've said my piece, people. I'm moving on. Point of principle, people. Don't do it. And certainly don't do it when it comes out. You know, if you're going to buy the Ultimate Edition, wait until it's a fiver somewhere. And then that really piss them off. So you can still have it. Just have it later. Where are we, people? Where are we on my list of exciting topics? Yeah, well, here's another thing, just on the back of that. Xbox have already said, allegedly, that all of the upgrades to Xbox Series X must be free. So how on earth are they getting away with that? You know what I mean? They need to have a word with them, Xbox. If that's what they've put down as set in stone, like if you give your game an upgrade to the new console, it has to be free, then how are they getting away with that if that's the case? So, you know, just on the tail end of it. Here's a big one. We've had more news on the DualSense haptic feedback. God, I can't even say it. You know what I mean? The sensations you get in your hands from the rumbly effects on the controller, the haptic feedback that we're going to be getting on the DualSense controllers. We've been hearing a lot more from developers about how they're making use of it. So here's some examples, right, that I was jotting down from this article that I read somewhere on Tinterwebs. I think it was IGN again. So these are different studios sort of using it for different things. So one of them, here's a bit of a dangerous one, actually. One of them's actually, and it's Deathloop, I think. I'll put in a facility in that when your gun jams, the trigger actually doesn't move. So your gun jams, you can't click it. And that's fine, and it's quite exciting to see stuff like that going on. But I think you might actually find people breaking the controllers trying to force the thing down. So I'm not overly sure how good that is to do, but it's certainly impressive that they can do it. You've got metal hitting metal and knowing that that feeling is different to whether you've hit the body of something. I mean, they might have armor on, of course, but it's to help. I think they were talking about Demon Souls when they're talking about this. So if you hit sword on sword, so it's like a block or a sword of sword effect, you've not damaged something, but if you manage to get a hit in, you won't get the same sensation with the controller. You'll get a more spongy feel, for example, and stuff like that. But they can make metal hitting metal different to hitting rubber or plastic or stuff like that, which is super exciting. And they were also talking about they can put on a crackling sensation when you put magic, like, and they can actually put a sensation in just a bit of the controller on the left or the right. So if you've got a sword in the right and fire in the left hand, you'll get crackling sensation in the left, and you'll get the hit sensation with metal on metal and stuff like that on the right hand side. And the crackling on the hand kind of changes its force when you use it and stuff like that. It's going to be super exciting to see what they've done with this. I think it's going to have a real impact on how we enjoy games and how we use those facilities to help us. I mean, another one was, yeah, they were using it in the Spider-Man Miles Morales to identify which direction. It uses his Spidey senses basically tingle in a particular part of the controller depending on where the enemy's coming from. So you can actually design where you're looking based on what you're feeling in the controller, which is superb. Venom Punch, electricity crackle, again, left to right on the controller. So basically it starts with a crackle and then it gets more and more powerful and then pushes out the right hand side of the controller, which is brilliant. And then there was I think they were talking Ratchet and Clank had like a double-barreled weapon, and when it builds up to a certain point of force, the trigger gets heavier and heavier, and if you pull it past a heavier point, you'll get the double-barrel shot, but if you let go, it'll just stick with a single, and stuff like that, which is really cool. The bow pullback we know about, so as you pull a bow back, it'll get more and more resistance until you're ready to release it. Also great. And then you've got, they were in general talking about the fact that they can make a different sensation for plastic, metal, sand, all that sort of stuff, spongy effect, hard effect, you know. So it's going to be really, really interesting. And the thing with these things is it's always down to whether or not the developers use it. Certainly the first-person developer, the first-party developers are using it here. So it's going to be interesting to see. Well, Deathloop aren't a first party, so yeah, they're using it. So it'll be interesting to see if your big sort of Ubisofts and EAs and people like that all start using it, you know, Bungie and all that, and start putting it into their sort of stuff. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, I think it's a terrific feature if it's that sensitive that it can do that many different sensations in your hands. And if you combine that with, I mean, they released the new trailer, which is the next thing we're going to talk about. The new trailer kind of, well, it's actually, I'm saying new trailer, it's the first TV trailer that they're coming up with for the PlayStation 5 that's going to be on TV. And it is pushing into all of that. It's pushing into 3D. It's all about sensation more than it's about the console itself. So they're talking about the 3D audio. That's why they're going to be pushing the headsets with the new console. The 3D audio, between the 3D audio where literally you can hear from any direction where a noise is coming from, you can hear raindrops in front and behind and all around the place. Between that and the haptic feedback with all of the different sensations that come with that, that's what they're pushing more than they're pushing anything else at the launch of this console. And rightly so, because if you're gonna say, hey, here's why you should have one of these instead of sticking with your PS4, because all right, you've got more power, but we know there's only going to be 1 to 2 exclusives at launch that you may not be fussed about. So you've got to have more of a reason than power to be investing your money if you're someone that can only afford one console and someone that isn't necessarily a must-have day one purchaser. They've got to have something they're going to push that you don't have on the current console. And I think you can get 3D audio on the current console, but it's nowhere near as in-depth as the PS5. The PS5 goes really deeply into 3D audio. So I think between those two new features, I think it's going to be really exciting to see what they can do with that. And I really hope that the big devs pick up on it for, I think certainly things like horror games and everything can get really, really special. I think they were saying that apparently it can sense your heart rate and they can use that to see how scared you are and even manipulate what's going on screen and stuff. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic if they can do stuff like that. The downside to PS5 though, which is a bit of I don't understand it really. One of the big boosts they gave to Xbox was that all of Xbox's existing kit will work with the Xbox Series X, the controllers and headsets and stuff like that. PlayStation have come out and said the DualShock 4 will not work with the PlayStation 5. It has to be a DualSense. And for me, I don't get it. I mean, all right, I can understand like this, surely if you're making a game that makes use of these extra things, that's fine. But you just have something in there that says if that's available, use it. If not, don't use it. Why you can't still play a game simply because you don't have the newest controller is a bit beyond me. And it does smell a little bit like we can't use much from PS4 Life on PS5. But, I think most people who buy you're going to get a controller with a PS5 anyway. But I think for most people who are sitting there with 2 or 3 DualShock 4s are going to be a bit disappointed. They've just got to let them go. Why can't I use those if I have a mate round to play football? Why can't we play the football game with one old controller and a new controller? It makes no sense. So, I don't know. Maybe there's some underlying reason, like they've changed the Bluetooth format or something that just means it won't connect, which is fair enough, I suppose. If they wanted to jump in technology and couldn't possibly bring forward what they had already, fair enough. But it seems a little bit odd, though, still, for me. Or maybe they just want the DualShock 4s to be wiped out as quickly as possible. You know what I mean? I have no idea. But it's very, very odd. Microsoft have still got that full backward compatibility with the games, and then you've got the backward compatibility and forward compatibility with all of your kit and everything. I mean, they've done really well with that, Microsoft. So from a welcoming point of view to a new console, Microsoft is still ahead in that game. From new innovation, probably PlayStation are a bit ahead there, so far as they've got these extra features and stuff. I think Microsoft's controller does have more sensitive, rumbly type stuff going on, but it's not as in depth as the DualSense, I don't think. And yeah, so we're moving on to Halo. Halo is the last conversation. It is, funnily enough, the thing we talked about last week. But very quickly, Halo Infinite being delayed. There was a few stories out this week that kind of were poo-pooed almost immediately by Microsoft, but of course they would be. But there was one rumor that because they were focusing so heavily on the TV show, that it was taking a lot of time away from what they needed to do with the game and a lot of emphasis and a lot of people that need input. They poo-pooed that and said, no, it's a completely separate team. That's absolute bollocks. It's separate. It's nothing to do with the gaming people. The people that are involved in the TV show have nothing to do with the people in the game. Then there was so they shot that down, and then there was another rumor that said that they were using third-party studios to try and do a lot of the work. So they were outsourcing a lot of the developer work, which baffles my brain, because the last I heard, I thought they had about 350 staff there. It's like, Jesus. So if you've got 350 staff in your top studio, what on earth are you outsourcing for? But apparently, I mean, I can understand, like, if they've lost people. Like, I know for a fact they lost a couple of big people that were heavily in charge of that game, I think. But even then, you would think your own studio of 350 people could do the dev work for it. So it's interesting and slightly confusing as to why they're outsourcing work for a game like that. Very, very strange to me. And that's made it hard, apparently, for them to bring it, especially with COVID and they can't get together and blah, blah, blah. So apparently it's made it very difficult to bring everything together at the level and for when they wanted it for. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out and whether or not any of that is true. But those rumours like that don't just surface from nowhere. I think these were from, you know, people inside and stuff. But we'll see. We'll see what comes of it. I hope with the extra time they've given, they make it all it can be. Because, people, and finally, I've been playing the Halo collection. As I talked about, the Master Chief collection has been getting played, finally. Now, I decided not to start on Reach, which technically is the beginning of the story, because Reach happens before the Master Chief stuff happens. But I wanted to get 1 and 2 out of the way, because I knew that their gameplay would be probably the clumsiest, if you like, for want of a better word. Certainly 1. And I knew from starting 1 a long time ago that it wasn't very pretty at the beginning at all. They all clearly struggled to get that to run smoothly. They've done a terrific job. I mean, if you put it on and look at it as it used to look, view, it's fine. But if you try and look at it in the new graphic style, there were open, and it was open world areas where it suffered, especially where there was ships flying in and stuff. Just certain sections right at the beginning of the game were tearing. The frame rate was sticky, and, you know, not for long periods of time, but just enough to be like, Jesus, why could you not sort that out? And then I kind of battled through that, and then I adored it. It was such a blast, and I finished it. And really, there was only probably 2 areas that struggled with it. One was the jungle area, and one was the first open area at the beginning, just right at the beginning. And it was, as I say, it wasn't all the way through the areas. It was just in little tiny spots where there seemed to be a lot going on. And it just seemed odd that they couldn't smooth it over. But I think they were using the original engine, though, and I think there might just have been things they couldn't smooth. So anyway, I moved on to Halo 2 the night before. No, the same night when I finished Halo. It was Wednesday night. Started 2, and my God, how much they'd learned by Halo 2. What a game that is. Bloody brilliant. Well, firstly, the cinematics were fantastic because they'd gone to proper CGI cutscenes at that point. Everything graphically was far superior in game. And bearing in mind, this was still an original Xbox game as well. So they'd come leaps and bounds, and they clearly found it easier to remaster that one, or whatever they called it, remaster, remake. It wasn't really a remake because you're still using the underlying engine. But now, don't get me wrong, there's still a couple of places in that game so far that have had little sticky moments, but not as bad as the first one. And it's beautiful to play. I mean, it's gorgeous. I mean, they both were in places, absolutely stunning. And so much fun. Like, it gives you so much more vehicle stuff, and even flying around in the flying vehicles was so much fun as well in the second one so far. I'm really, really enjoying it, people. I forgot how much fun was in those games because I haven't played them in so long. So I'm really looking forward to cracking on with 2 again and seeing that through at some point soon, and then cracking straight into 3. I think I'll probably just do the whole Master Chief stuff, and then I'll do Reach last so I can see where it all started, which is kind of what happened anyway. I think Reach came out after 3, didn't it? Yeah, because 4 was the first one that 343 did. And I played 4 when it came out, and I was really impressed with it. It didn't have the open areas I would have wanted, but as a single-player campaign, it was great fun. A really good story, loved it. And I still haven't played 5 yet at all. So, not true. I think I played the opening sort of half an hour. And for some reason, I just never went back to it. I mean, I was fine. I just wasn't in a Halo mode, I don't think. So I'm looking forward to trying 5 out again. I know a lot of people downed it because of the story, but I don't think it was a bad game. I think it was just the story people didn't like and the fact you weren't playing as Master Chief. But there's a thing. Well, you are playing as Master Chief a bit, but not a lot of it. But there's a thing, you see, in Halo 2, you're playing as the alien guy as well. I've forgotten his name now. But you're playing as the alien guy. It's half and half almost, and they got a lot of moans about that when it came out. But I'm actually enjoying his story a little bit more than Master Chief's because it's a little bit more interesting. So I don't think I've ever played 2 all the way through because I never had an Xbox original. So I think I attempted to play it because the original played on a 360, but I never quite got to seeing it through, I don't think. So I'm looking forward to seeing that story through. And then 3 I did play a lot of, but I can't remember a huge amount about it. But I'm just looking forward to seeing the whole story through again. So yeah, I'm just on this never-ending roll of Halo at the minute. We'll see how far. You can burn out in games like this, though, so we'll see how far I get. But I'm certainly really, really enjoying it. It's been an absolute blast. It really has. And I tell you what else is stunning about those games. The music is sublime. And there's so many different variants of the music as well. Like, you'll get the proper sort of Halo theme, battle theme first off. I ended up in this fight and it was like a rock guitar theme of the same song. It was so good, and it kicks in at just the right moments when big battles happen and you get a real buzz from it. And it really, really lends itself to those games. The music is spectacular. I must try and get the soundtracks at some point. I thought I had one of the soundtracks at one point, but I don't seem to have it anywhere. Might try and get a hold of the soundtracks for those. Absolutely fantastic. I do like getting some soundtrack music from time to time. I've got the Skyrim one, and I think I've got, what was the other weird? Oh, I've got a code for the soundtrack for Ghost of Tsushima because I got it with the special edition or whatever it was called that I got with the tin box. And I think I've downloaded a few. Oh, I downloaded Assassin's Creed at one point because I wanted the shanties from Black Flag. So I've got themes here, there, and everywhere. Yeah, Uncharted. I've got Uncharted kicking around. So I do love a good theme. They're funny albums though. You could always smelt them together into one playlist of the bits you want because they have loads of music on them that are only like 30 seconds long, a minute long because it's only for core bits of the game. But then you'll have like a proper piece of music that lasts for 5 minutes or so. But there's some gorgeous music out there. It's the music that's done for games is just incredible. It really, really is. Blimey, the lighting's gone that funny way again, people. Even though I tried as best I could to pick dark images. Well, there you are, people. That's Demon Souls, by the way. I tried to find one with Demon Souls on it that was big enough for the TV, but I couldn't find one. So there you are. I do love having these little images behind us. If you've not noticed, people, I try and pick images that are about what I'm talking about, you see. There is preparation for you. I had to try and rush it tonight because I thought I'd have time through the day to grab a few images, but I didn't. I was busy. So I sort of came home, and before I could record, I had to grab myself a few images. Some of them you'll have seen before, but I do put in new images of the things we're going to talk about. Well, there you are, people. That's about all I have. I have no idea how long I've been speaking for, whether that was fast, short, fast, long, indifferent. I have no idea. My plans for this week are to continue to play the Master Chief Collection, really, of the evenings and do my exercising and stuff. Nothing more planned than that. I still haven't managed to squeeze in more podcasts as yet. I'm still sticking to the Fridays, and I've still not got any plans at the minute to go back recording gameplay at the moment. But I shall keep you posted, people, if the buzz takes me. I've just found myself using my time for other things, but I do love doing these on a Friday, so I hope you guys are enjoying them as well. I know that a lot of people possibly stop watching this type of thing because I wasn't putting the sort of trailers and videos and interesting clips in as well, rather than just looking at my mug. So, that is now back. It'll have been back in this video as you've been watching it. It was in the last video, and funnily enough, the last video got a number more views than the one before it. So I think putting those vids back in, smelting them in and out of what I'm talking about, has certainly helped, and hopefully that'll help grow these little podcasts of mine. I honestly hope you're enjoying them because I'm really enjoying this format of doing them. Now that I've figured out how I can nicely put the video footage back in and into them is great, and it means that we've got everything we had before apart from my window ledge with all of the things, all of the little knickknacks on it. Although I do have, you'll notice the little Fallout guys come down to here under here for last week because I have this little new character here, little new bobblehead. The Inquisitor from, probably can't see it because it's dark, but it's the Inquisitor from the Jedi Fallen Order. And I ordered another one, which I'll share with you when. Oh, it's a double lightsaber. I never even noticed. I'll share the other one with you when it arrives. But it's the Inquisitor from Jedi Fallen Order. There you go. So it actually came about because I was trying not to spend money actually, but I had to get a couple of things from Amazon that didn't quite come to £20, and I really resent paying for delivery. So I went out of my way. I thought, what can I get? And I thought, oh, I know, I could do with some knickknacks for up here. So we've got knickknacks for the videos when I record them. So I went on immediately to look at the bobbleheads, because I already had this bobblehead here of the Mandalorian. And I nearly called him the Mandarin then, but the Mandalorian. Anyway, so I ended up finding that, and I thought, well, I'm not having that without the other one. But the other one's coming from America because there was none available in the UK, so we'll see. So hopefully I can show you that in a week or so's time. But yeah, I do love the knickknacks, people. There's nothing better than having, if you're doing videos like this, it's nice to have interesting things about you, I always find. So maybe as we go on, we might find some way of... I have an idea of, although we've got the 2 pictures there at the minute, I have an idea that maybe the way the game situation is, I may end up with a very tall wall thing with all the games in it and some knickknacks and stuff like that. Maybe. It just makes the background interesting when you're watching podcasts. I like seeing people I hate seeing people in podcasts. I say hate's a strong word. I dislike seeing people with blank backgrounds, with CGI'd backgrounds, with, and that's fine. If that's what they like, it's fine. It's just me personally. I like seeing people sat in their own little gamer den. You know what I mean? Like they've got all their gamey knickknacks around them, and their gamey knickknacks. That sounded a bit gamey knickknacks about them, people, and all of their collections and interesting stuff behind them. I much prefer that than something digital like, well, just a TV screen, for example, like this, with no other interesting effects, which is why I'm so interested in getting some interesting effects around me. It's the only thing I'd like to expand on the new studio, people. So there you are. I ramble on a little bit, don't I? I'm pretty sure that's all we had for you. There we are. The list is done, people. I always have a nice little list on my phone, you see. Make notes through the week as to what I'm going to talk about. Sub notes and all. It's all very organised, people. It might not sound it when I actually say it out loud, but it is. Often a lot of how smooth the video goes and how many ums I try to avoid is because I've not had enough time to process my list before I sit down and talk. So I'm kind of trying to remember why I put it on the list, rather than having sat, and when I've actually sat and been able to just quickly read through it again and get my thoughts together, it's a lot smoother. I feel like it went smoother today than last week, let's put it that way. And that's surprising considering I didn't actually have a huge amount of time. I think it was the subject matter was a bit easier to click with, I guess. So there you are, people. There you are. That is all I have to talk about today. In fact, I'm going to finish with a flagons up. Flagons up to you all. We'll share another sip, shall we? Well, that was lovely. I enjoyed that. I have no idea at this stage in the game as to what trailers I will have put up for you to see, but I've got a couple of ideas, to be fair. There you are, people. That is all I have for you today. If I carry on speaking any longer, it will be absolute babble, and it might have been absolute babble for the last 10 minutes. It has been an honour and a privilege, as always, speaking to you today in this vlog of mine, and I shall see you all in the next one, folks. Take it easy. Bye.